Hi, I'm Amy Shannon from Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast, where stories speak, voices matter, and words come alive. If you are following this on Spotify, please follow the podcast. Um, Now, the interviewees uh, have the option of having an audio only podcast session or a video podcast session. This is a video podcast session, and I hope that you enjoy it. It will also be shown on YouTube. So if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Thank you.
All right, we're live.
Good evening, listeners. Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast, Behind the Books, Honest Voices, Real Stories. I'm Amy Shannon, and I'm pulling back the curtain, bringing you heartfelt and real conversations with the storytellers and creatives that go beyond the books. You never know where the conversation will lead us, so let's find out. Tonight we have two guests joining us, so thank you for joining us. Will you please introduce yourselves and let people know how to contact you or find your book?
Sure. Alain?
No,
Well, my name is Bianella DeLaHoz, and I am a twin to my lovely brother, Alain Orozco. I am a nurse, a labor and delivery nurse at Baptist Hospital. I live in Miami and married with 3 children.
I myself, my name is Alain Orozco. I am married to my wife Yvette for the last 24 years, 25 years.
Wow.
We've been together for 32 years now. I have 2 daughters, a 20-year-old and a 23-year-old. I am a property appraiser in Florida, in the southeast region, and I'm also a jiu-jitsu practitioner. I'm a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu and a 14-time champion, gold medalist.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Thank you very much. So, why don't you tell me what what's the title of your book, and what inspired you two to write it?
Well, the title of our book is Redeemed: A Journey from Darkness to Light. It's my sister and I. She's my twin. We experienced a difficult childhood. We were raised from Colombian parents back in the 70s. We were born in 1970, and in the 70s, the cartels, the Colombian cartels, began, and that drug trade really took hold in the United States, and it still has today. But it's pretty much when the Medellin cartel started back in the 70s.
Oh,
And so my parents got involved in the drug trade. My father was involved in that, got my mother involved in that trade, and he was a womanizer. I mean, I don't know if I remember. I mean, in the back of the book, it talks about my mother was murdered in 1982.
I'm
And
sorry.
so it's okay. And so my sister and I, the story starts off where my sister and I take off from there. Where we ended up. We ended up with family members. We were separated, my sister and I. A couple years later, we were reunited again, living with our father. I got into the drug trade with my father, and in 1989, I was arrested by the federal government, and spent almost 11 years in federal prison. So the story basically starts where I begin to redeem myself in 1993, when I gave my life to Christ. And I started to redeem myself and started to just release and find a path of forgiveness. And so it talks about a lot of the things that happen in our lives, the gifts that God gave to me. One of the first gifts that he gave to me was my wife. My wife, I had met her in 1982 when I was 12 years old. And while I was in prison, she came to see me. And she stayed with me for the next 7.5 years. And we've been together for the last 32 years.
She sounds amazing.
She is amazing. She's a beautiful woman. She's amazing. And she's given me two beautiful daughters. So the story goes off, it talks about all the details that happened, how my sister and I dealt with mental health.
Right.
We have our post-traumatic stress. We have our PTSD that we've dealt with.
Yeah.
My sister dealt with it earlier on. I dealt with it later. And do
you think you still have some of that, like lingering?
I do have a little bit, but it's not at the level that I had when it hit me. Because when it hit me in, I believe it was in 2014. And it was it just came out of nowhere. I literally went to sleep on a cruise, and I was having a fever. And when I woke up out of a nap, I woke up with post-traumatic stress. I mean, I woke up having a panic attack, several panic attacks that night. I had never had a panic attack in my life.
Right.
And the next 3 or 4 months were literally hell.
I'm very sorry. I also have PTSD from domestic violence 20 years ago. So I can kind of understand it. It just hits you out of nowhere.
It hit me out of nowhere. It hit me out of nowhere. I became afraid of the dark. I was afraid of crowds. I was, my vision was blurred. I couldn't be in cloudy days were very bad. Traffic was bad. I couldn't go up to the second floor in my house. All the lights in the house had to be on. So it was that type of, I became very hypersensitive
right.
to everything. I mean, I couldn't even wear a cap. I couldn't even wear a cap on my head because, or I couldn't wear sunglasses because I would be in the dark. I would be a shade, so the shade would go down. So it was just really bad until I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. And then I felt 50% better because at least I knew what was happening to me, because we didn't know for about 2 months what was happening to me. I think my sister thought that I may have had cancer or something. Something was happening in my stomach because the food was going right through me. I was losing weight.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was, it got to the point where I was afraid I was going to end my life. I mean, I was scared that it got that bad. I didn't know. I never knew that option was even ever on the table for me. I never thought, I could do something like that.
Right.
And so that's when I went to a doctor, and within 2 minutes, he said, "You have post-traumatic stress. What happened to your life?" He just literally, he said, "What happened in your past?"
Yeah.
And I was surprised that he asked me. I go, "Why are you asking me that?" He goes, "Because you have post-traumatic stress." And I go, "How do you know I have that?" He goes, "Because your symptoms are my symptoms, and I have post-traumatic stress. I was paralyzed from the neck down. I was in a car accident, and he showed me a trachea scar on his neck. And he goes, your symptoms are mine.
Yeah.
What happened in your past?" And I told him, I just told him, 2 minutes version of it. And he goes, "You need to go see a psychiatrist right now, or a psychologist right now." Yeah. And I started therapy. And I started therapy for the next 2 months. He said that, it was a Christian therapist. Mm-hmm. And then I went to see him. He told me, you're gonna feel 80% better in the next 8 weeks. And I go, okay. He goes, "Just do everything I tell you to do, and you'll feel 80% better." And so he handed me a list for me to fill out, what the trauma was.
Yeah.
And so I filled it out, and I turned the sheet and I filled it out, and I handed it to him. He says, "I've never had anybody, fill out the full front page. You filled out the front and back. I usually have people that will fill out one line and said I was in a car accident, I was molested,
right?
When I was in a marriage, something to that effect. And you have just filled out the front and back page of this paper. So we have to go through every one of these incidences and go through it again. You got to repeat it."
So we're, you mentioned, being religious, and were you? Did you ever have before this? Were you a religious person prior to? So it was just nothing.
Well,
What made you, or how did you find, I don't want to say find religion, it sounds kind of hokey, but
My mother was Catholic,
Mhm.
so the typical Catholic that we would go to church on Sundays, and so my mother, believed in Christ and would go to church, but she also dabbled in other things as well. But I believe as a Catholic, I would just go to church and just see Christ on the wall.
Yeah.
And to me, it was, he died 2,000 years ago. I mean, what could he do for me today? I mean, I didn't have a relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
I didn't know what he can do with me. I believe in spirit because my sister and I had seen spirit.
Yeah.
We had seen our mother's spirit.
Mhm.
And so we believed in something was beyond.
Yes.
And then when I went to prison, there were Christian gatherings and Christian church.
Mhm.
And I began to start to go to church, but I kept my distance. Because they seemed like Jesus freaks, what we would call.
Yeah.
They seem like fanatics. And I go, this is, and so my position was, why are you searching for Christ now after you committed robberies, sold drugs, done all these things?
Right.
Why it seemed hypocritical to me.
Mhm.
And when in reality, we all come to Christ, we all ask for God's help when we're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the moment when you say, God, please help me, when you don't have control of the situation. So, I didn't see it that way. And then gradually, I just gave my life to Christ. I said, I can't do it anymore.
Wow. That's amazing.
I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
Well, I actually think, Alain, I think when I saw his transformation or his introduction to it more is when he was in solitary confinement in prison. That's where, he shared that he was, he developed a relationship, with Jesus.
Well, that's just it. It was a step. But I became a Christian and I gave my life to Christ in 1993. I went to prison in 1989. And I kept getting, I was always getting in trouble. I was getting into fights in prison and I would end up in solitary confinement. And so the only book that they give you in solitary confinement, the first that's there, they'll give you a Bible.
Right.
So I would start it. Okay, well, I have to read this because when you're locked up in a cell 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you need, the only thing that makes time go by faster is reading.
Right.
I would start with Genesis. I would start with the first book. And I would be in, solitary confinement 15 days, a couple months sometimes. And, because I would end up in solitary confinement almost every year for 10 years for one thing or the other. And, gradually, every time that I would come back into solitaire, I would start this relationship again with Christ, because I would be able to focus and speak to him and just have that solitude. So for me, it was good. The solitary confinement was good. But,
so when you were in solitary, when you weren't in solitary, were you still, having that relationship, or was it something you kept to yourself?
I still had the relationship, but I also realized I didn't have the Christian transformation where all of a sudden Jesus I just turned into 100% Christian and I started everything. It was a very slow process for me because I realized that being in prison, I'm still living in hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you live by, there's a different way of living your life as an inmate, and everything's very petty. There's fights will start for no reason, for a stamp, it's for no reason. So the laws are different.
Yeah.
I knew that, okay, I'm in prison. I can't, I wasn't in the position to turn the other cheek. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't turn the other cheek because you're living there. And if you show weakness, then everybody will take advantage of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But my view of Christ changed, of who he was. He could change my life. And so I prayed to him constantly, and I prayed for him to change my life. and he began to open up things and answer things for me that I had asked for before. Like I wanted to know who killed my mother. I wanted to find out certain things. And slowly but surely, everything came. Every answer came to me. And I found out, my sister and I found out about who committed the murders. I was in prison with the person who committed the murder.
Oh, geez.
I ran into him and I didn't even know it was him.
Wow.
We stayed together in a cell for 2 weeks, and I never knew that it was him. I found out like a month later that it had been him. So, I found, finding out all these things, and why would I, so I went through why would God allow me to find out that this is the person and I can't do anything about it?
Right. And what would you have done if you knew when you were sharing a cell with him?
At that time, I probably would have taken his life.
Right.
But as time went on, as a Christian, you have to release everything and just give forgiveness for everything. And I did that eventually. It took me many, many years to finally, and PTSD, the gift of PTSD, which PTSD for me was a gift, because it really put me on my knees and it made me a better person.
Yeah.
And I was, it just made me a better person. And I was able to forgive everyone. Everyone.
That's really remarkable. And, there's probably a reason why you didn't know that he was the killer until after you weren't sharing a cell,
Correct.
So I believe that there's there's a reason for everything.
There's a reason for everything.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
It probably I think it would have, your life probably would have went in a totally different direction.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So what really what made you both to decide to share your story? I know that I'm a writer and an author, and sometimes just for me, writing things down and maybe not even sharing with people just how I feel or whatever helps just kind of get it out. When I don't have someone to talk to, I write it out, and it's so much easier for me to write it. So what made you want to share your story?
I'll begin this. Let me finish this one. Yeah. It's in a private thing. I would have to say that very quickly, what inspired the book was really anybody who would hear our story. Anybody who would hear our story would be amazed at our resilience and how we remained kind people. And they would always say, like, you have to write a book. I am, because I'm a nurse, I had to educate myself on domestic violence, on trauma, and psychology. And so that gave me a lot of help, along with my own, like Alain. It helped me have great compassion towards my patients. And with that compassion and in caring for others, I healed, and I would share the stories with my brother. And so my brother would be very inspired by those stories, and he too wanted to help. And so we both, we both wanted to someday write the book, and we would always talk about it.
Right.
But it was truly my brother who really put the motions in place, and our reason, we didn't want it to be like a sense of entertainment. It really is meant for inspiration. If it can help at least one person out there who has suffered domestic violence, who has suffered betrayal, it's really the story of how one choice can lead to the destruction of relationships and families, and how through God, I believe the greatest gift my mother gave us in our 12 years of life was faith. because I always did see my mother pray, light a candle, and our prayers every night. And so that led us into, when she died, I remember grabbing her Bible and reading it, and she left us with the gift of God. And so we kept it. It was our foundation to continue to explore. I remain a Catholic. That's my, I'm comfortable with that, and my brother's a Christian, and that's fine. We're all brothers and sisters of Christ. But I believe that our mission is to really, we hope that people can find how God interjected in our lives and put the right people and the right situations for us to blossom. And if they can get that in their life, if they're going through a trauma or a loss, if they just hold on to God and see how he can get you through to the other side, it's really miraculous, the goodness that comes out of it, if you just believe.
Yeah. For me, it's very similar. We would tell our story. I would tell my story, snippets of our life story. Mm-hmm. Everybody would just always say, man, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. Man, that's crazy. You got to write a book. I go, you don't even know half of it. I mean, I just told you just one portion of it.
Right.
But when we thought about, my sister and I would say, you know what, we do have to write a book. But I didn't know what the ending would be.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the ending would be. And like my sister mentioned, she would tell me these stories of these lives that she would save in her work, mothers and children, and I go, wow, that's really, it's great. I wish I could do something like that. I'm a property appraiser. I'm not saving anybody's life.
Right.
But I'm a Christian, and maybe I can save somebody's soul. I can just bring somebody to God and find some peace, because that's how I found peace after my PTSD. After PTSD, the only peace that I had was when I came to, when I started to have a really good relationship with God. And so I was invited by my brother-in-law to join a ministry group, and so I minister at the state prison in Lego Okeechobee. So that when I gave that testimony, my testimony, that was very similar to the inmates that were there, they took it very well, and it was inspiring for me, and inspired me to write the book. Okay, now I know this has come full circle. I never thought that I would ever step back into a prison ever again.
Yeah.
Especially to go to preach what God did in my life. But that's just what I did. So that was it came full circle for me with going back into prison and giving our testimony, my sister and I's testimony. And so I spoke with Michael, who was our co-writer, and he got us started writing the book. Him and his wife, Nancy, really helped us in the last 2 years. This book took 2 years to bring to light.
Right.
And so, now here we are, and all we can do is just hope that anybody who's been through PTSD, through any sort of trauma, a death in the family, any sort of loss, depression,
being in that darkness,
where I have literally felt that I didn't know I was going to make it out. When I was sitting in a prison cell, it's the farthest place. You feel like you're in the farthest place from humanity.
Yeah.
And when you're sitting in there, you just can't see. I couldn't see the life that I have right now. I could not have imagined the life that I live right now. It was just, my God, it was in a different universe.
Right.
I couldn't see him because even my wife, she stayed with me. I didn't have anything. I didn't even have my own to forget about money. I didn't have my freedom.
Yeah.
I didn't have my freedom. So for her to fall in love with me and stay with me during that period of time, just because she fell in love with me, and we fell in love with each other, without a dollar to my name or my freedom, it says a lot for who my wife is.
Oh, yes, it does. It speaks very loudly. Yes.
And she put her life on hold for 7 years and 3 months. So the life that I have now is it's just been a gift from God, and I'm just very grateful. And so I tell that to the inmates at the prison. I go, listen, you can have peace whether you ever get out or not. You can have peace in yourself, right where you sit, or you can have peace out here, because there's many people out in the free world that don't have peace.
Oh, yes.
They don't have peace. And my sister and I really do have peace.
And I think that's wonderful. And I know that, you know, whatever, as long as you have faith, no matter what your faith is,
Yes.
that, you know, and you can be grateful for every single day that you wake up. Then, you know, it's like my mother, I lost her when she was 44. But she showed me by her actions on how to be kind, you know, and I try to do that, and I try to spread the word that more people need to be kind.
Yes.
And I think that with you two sharing your story, and you're providing not just information or telling people that, you know, if you have faith, you can make it through, but you are just being kind by sharing your story. So I really, truly honor that you came on the show to talk to me today. And I hope that, you know, you can continue on your path. And I know that it's, even when you feel healed, you know, there's always that peace that, you know, it's there lingering, you know, you don't always feel that you're completely healed, but as long as you have faith and can be grateful for every single moment in your life, then I think that is very remarkable. And I am truly honored to have met you, and I can't wait to read this story. And by the time this airs, I will have read it.
Thank you.
So it's the end of another great conversation, and thank you for being on the show, and thank you, audience, for listening. If you wish to be a guest on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Thank you for watching this video podcast. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is a takeoff of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews website, and which does reviews and also author promotions. You can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com for more information. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, follow, and keep listening. Thank you.